Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Shady Corner Lewdcast. It is me, your boy Shades, and today I'm talking with what we know on this channel as a legend because it was one of the first video games that I ever covered. We covered Bowntown and Bonecraft. The creator himself, which we called D-Dub because we had no idea that there was a name behind the name. We're here today with Hod. Hod, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's one of those things where I never ever thought I'd actually ever meet you. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I feel like you're very elusive on the internet.
I'm not the most tech savvy person when it comes to social media and all that. Just not my cup of tea.
No,
So I'm purposely elusive just because I like to do what I have to do, but more than that starts being a little bit too much effort for me.
oh, of course, definitely. So I wanted to kind of, without obviously giving too much away, could you tell my audience a little bit about yourself and your background as not only just a game dev, but is there any other things that that you do besides being a game dev?
Oh, yeah, I do. I like to think I do a lot of things, but so my background, I actually started as a programmer. Uh, I then saw the movie Office Space and thought, holy crap, I want to be Lumberg. I don't want to be the guy sitting there programming. So I switched to the business side of programming and was able to develop the idea for Bowntown in college. Um, and luckily enough, find some money for it after college. So I was from the business side completely. I've always loved programming, and I do program now much more than I used to. I've learned more through the years, but I definitely I was the business side, making everything happen, hiring people, and getting money and all that. But it was because of that, I also was doing everyone's job when they were doing their dirty work. So I learned a lot of stuff. So my background, I touch a lot of things now. I've learned many different things about video games and how to make them. But I've kind of forgot what the original question was here and where I was going with this.
No, that's completely okay. Basically, so basically, you what were you studying in college?
Management information systems. When I was in school, that was pretty much the only business side there was to programming. Maybe there's more now. I haven't looked,
Mm.
but it's called management information systems, computer information systems, depending on where you were. So it was really a lot of management of data and how to understand what businesses do with programmers and how all that stuff. So it
Hmm.
was a good background, and it was a good business school with entrepreneurship program, which allowed me to develop Bonetown, and it was in Tucson, which is where Go Postal was developed as well. So we early on were meeting up with Vince Stezzi and having crazy nights with him and developing more ideas for Bonetown. Because Bonetown really came from one particular night in college where me and two of my buddies were out drinking pretty heavily at our house actually first before you went to the bars because those were those good old days where you had to show up nice and toasted already. So when we finally got to the bars, we had actually gotten too toasted, and we're only there for about 20 minutes before all three of us separately got kicked out by bouncers for doing different stupid things. So we all licking our wounds, got kicked out of another bar, decided this is probably not the night for us to go out anymore. So we headed home, but still we're pretty drunk and we're thinking I think we were playing Grand Theft Auto and thinking, man, there should be a video game where you could go do what we wanted to go do tonight, to go get with chicks and have a good time partying and all that stuff that got denied to us because we pre-partied too hard. So that was kind of the beginning of Bonetown right there, and then just kind of looking around and realizing this shit didn't exist at all. There was no one doing anything like that, and then being in business school, getting all the business ideas going in my head, I thought to myself, porno video games, what the heck? This should exist. Why isn't this out there? There's Leisure Suit Larry, but that's it. And
Mm-hmm.
look how big video games are. And Grand Theft Auto at this time, this was probably 2004 or something. So Grand Theft Auto was just killing it with San Andreas, and I think the next one maybe was just coming out. So it kind of spawned from there and really started much more as a hitting on girls, because I've always been very psychology oriented, and I was really interested in what guys say to get with girls. Like I actually recorded my friends going out hitting on chicks a few times just to start figuring out how we can make a game out of this getting with girls. And it turned out in the end it wasn't all that fun. And we scrapped the idea of a whole conversation tree type idea where you say stuff, they say stuff, and you say stuff back, and it just I don't know. Our first demo, I don't know, there might be videos of it out there on the internet. It was on a little island with just a little hut, and it was that, and it was pretty lame. So we decided to scrap that idea and say, hitting on girls should be funny. It just should be a funny little thing that you do that leads you to having sex or not having sex. And that's kind of where our current system of hitting on girls came from, where you just press enter and get to hear some funny shit. I don't know if everyone else enjoys it as much as I do, but hitting on girls in our game is one of the funnest things I feel like I do in our game, because the shit I hear is amazing. I wrote almost every line in the game, and I still
Mm-hmm.
hear interactions that I never thought would have happened and make me laugh out loud continually. Just things that, two
So
things that didn't mean to go together but go together hilariously well. And that's the sort of stuff that I really
you were
enjoy.
saying about the bouncer thing. You were saying about how you got kicked out of the club
Oh
for,
yeah,
and yeah, yeah. Is that where the man comes from in the game?
yeah. Maybe a little bit. I've always been a person against the man in many regards. I'm a good American in
Mm-hmm.
that regard. We always
Mm-hmm.
feel like the man's keeping us down here, and in many regards he is. So, it's I think that's just more of the stoner college kid outlook I had at the time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I could see the man being the bouncer too. I like that metaphor. I'll roll with it. I was so drunk in those days. Who knows what I was thinking? Yeah,
So
I don't know if I've said this
I
in
was gonna.
many things before, but I always like saying it again because it describe our company very well. Is if anyone showed up late, they had to show up with beer, and the later they were, the more beer they had to show up with. So we had 30 packs coming in a lot during the day because we also had a lot of drunks that worked with us. So there wasn't a lot of people showing up on time all the time. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of it was an interesting place to develop. It was for me it was like herding cats, but for uh for the artistic side of it, it was good. We enjoyed it. We had a good time developing under the drunken circumstances. It was some downsides. There was a few people who maybe were too drunk too often, but it is what it
Do
is.
you with the development process? Obviously, what was the process like? Do you obviously just got a bunch of your friends together, or did you get a bunch of people together and rent a building, or what was that whole thing to get that thing started?
So I had from the beginning I had it was me doing the business, and then I had one of my good buddies from elementary school who was an amazing artist. His family is amazing artists. They go back a couple generations. I think that his grandmother had stuff in the White House. So he's from an art family, and he was doing programming as well. So he had a very good animating, modeling background going. So he was an obvious choice early on to me and him really were the ones talking about starting the company. And through him being a programmer, we found our lead programmer through being in college with other programmers. He'd met the guy who ended up being our lead programmer. And then our audio engineer was a guy we went to high school with who had gone to Seattle and gone to audio engineering school. So when that kind of this worked out well. He went because he wanted to be a rapper, a musician, producer type thing, but it worked out well for us being having someone who could do all of our audio and everything like that. So we had that was the base that pretty much came in just from people I knew. But after that, we did have to put out ads and hire more people. Actually, there was another person who came in through a person we knew. Our lead artist was someone through someone we knew who's like, oh, he makes video games. You guys are making video games. You should get together. And so we met up and clicked immediately. And so he was our texture artist. So really, we only. Oh wait, actually, and even our level designer came through people we knew as well. So really, I think we only
Okay.
went out to find another programmer. Oh, yeah, another programmer and a few other people. So we did end up doing a little call out to public, but the interviews definitely were a weeding out process because I would always do it with a giant picture of a penis drawn behind me, just to kind of have them looking up above my head and seeing a cock because that's what they're about to go deal with. So they better get used to it and not be uncomfortable around it. Since we're making portable video games, so it was it's hard to weed people out from that process beforehand, and especially this was way back before there were internet sites to get people. So we were just putting stuff in the paper and having people come into the office. So
Hmm.
it was interesting. So we did get an office. We definitely got an office. We started in a garage, like all good programmers seem to. We were in the my buddy the who really helped me start it with the artist. We were in his parents' garage for I think a year or two, and then we finally got some money and got an office, and had two different offices during development because we expanded to one that actually had a full sound booth. That was really nice because getting good audio was very hard when you're in a small office and you have someone coming in getting a lot of voice, which is very delicate audio. So we had moving to a bigger place was good, and it that's the second office had a whole room just for us to smoke weed in, which is pretty cool. Because there were some people
Okay.
who worked who weren't didn't like that or didn't want it like the whole office reeking like that. So we needed our own little place to go and do it and not offend everyone because my job as the manager was keeping everyone happy, and so I had to do what I had to do.
You sound like you're living the actual Bonetown life while you were actually developing the game.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely were.
Yeah.
I was with the woman who I'm now married to throughout the entire development, so I was never quite the one doing a lot of the boning, but there was a fair amount of boning that did go on in the office and drinking as well. We had plenty of girls doing modeling for our lead modeler, just because he would. I think it was part of his game at the time that he would tell girls he modeled naked girls for a living and how he could model them probably and stuff like that. I don't know, but I'd show
Holy
up
shit.
sometimes and he'd be drunk there with some girls still awake doing stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy time. That was I got to put this perspective though. That was 2005 through 2010, so that was a while ago now. I'm an older man who's got two kids, so I wouldn't say I live the Bonetown life anymore. I don't know if you listened, but I did a drunken stream the day we
I did see your post, but I did miss
uh,
it. Yeah.
well, I kind of missed it too because I drank so heavily that I blacked out, so I actually don't even remember most of it. But I
Brilliant.
hear I got carried out of my office, so that's always a good sign that I
Oh,
did it right. I just remember waking up the next
okay.
morning and being like, "Hey, how'd that go? I don't really remember anything." But it was because I think Steam was doing some maintenance, and so I thought the game was crashing on me, and I'm sitting there freaking out about the game crashing on me. So, and I had a bottle of whiskey in front of me, so the very natural reaction is I'm going to drink a lot of this whiskey to make myself feel better. And
Hmm.
I think I drank too much of that whiskey. But I hope someone the other day said they thought it was amazing. They never heard anyone as drunk as me. So that sounds like good a good review to myself.
That's a good goal to hit, man.
That's another place that BoneTown came out of. I could talk about here was a lifestyle that we grew up in. I don't know if it exists as much anymore, and it's probably good. And that was we wanted to be rock stars without playing a musical instrument or being in a band. We just wanted to party
Mm.
like rock stars. That was kind of, and I had a whole group of friends who just, we all fed off each other and just wanted to do more crazy stuff all the time. And my friends thought it'd be funny to tell me that it was a person named Joe Gravity who was pushing me over. So
Holy
I
shit.
sit here standing up going, "Who's Joe Gravity? Who's Joe Gravity?" And they point me towards the largest guy at the party, going, "That's Joe Gravity over there. What are you gonna do to him?" And I walk up to this guy and start telling him off for pushing me over. And this guy's like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And luckily, I was so drunk, he thought there's no reason even punching this guy in the face because I'm just gonna be the asshole who punches the drunk guy who can't even stand up. So
Dude, why is this not a mission in the fucking game?
could be. This is just the
It could be.
could be. It very well could be. And that's honestly, a lot of the stuff in the game is me driving stories from the crazy stuff me and my friends did growing up and try to put it in games.
So what you're saying is that there may be a possibility that you had to go get crack back for a hooker at some point in an alleyway, and then she ended up giving you a toothless blowjob. Is that's what you're saying?
I'm saying that never happened to me. I'm not saying that didn't happen to people I know.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, at the time, like, because I guess for the time, like, you were like one of the few bigger lewd games at the time. Like, there wasn't really anything else around. Uh, Before the lewd games have surged, how do you feel about today's market? Like, with there being so many porn games coming out from the West now.
Yeah. I have a weird definition of game. I that because of what I do, to me, game involves strategy, challenge, story, and a lot of that stuff. And personally, I just don't see a lot of games coming out. You could prove me wrong. I'm not out there seeing
No, no,
everything.
no,
I
of
don't want
course.
to offend anyone, but I see a lot of sex simulators is what I see, which is where I draw a line between sex simulators and porno video games, and the line is there strategy, is there game, is there challenge, is there things like that, which we get right now. We're in a I think I'm pushing today a balance change to Bowntown because we made it a little too hard. We maybe want too much challenge out of people who just want to go have sex, but it's just something that from the beginning we've always been into making a game like you would play on a console, and isn't just about the sex simulation side of it. So, may prove me. Tell I would like to hear of some more. Can you tell me of some more games
Oh,
like ours?
yeah, there is. There's heaps. Right now, there's a game that I only just found out about a couple of weeks ago called. It's like called Opie Town, and it's meant to be a mix of like a GTA mixed with Pokemon.
Huh?
3D style game where you walk around a town, but you capture monster chicks and shit, and like
Ah,
basically you just you fuck your way around the town.
hey,
A lot of the devs that I'm a part of in the Discord server, I'm in a Discord server with about I'd say about 500 other devs. And all of them in there are creating something very different. Like there are a few
huh?
people that obviously, and I agree with you, are creating sex simulator style games, but there are some devs in there that have created Metroid style games,
Oh,
3D style
well,
games.
yeah, that's great to hear.
That's
Cause
why I say like when
that's because
I was gonna say like seeing your game and seeing the like where it's come from. A lot of these games now have really expanded on the idea and like gotten even bigger. So it was very interesting to see like you kind of resurge Bonetown a little bit as of recent.
yeah, well, so hearing that there are more games out there, it's great. So my opinion on it is I love it. I want more. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why we don't have an industry right now is because we as one game for the years we've just been kind of doing it ourselves, we're not able to create an industry. We needed more games. We needed a lot more games, and that just wasn't out there. So I love hearing that there's more games coming out now, because it is the people who are losing in this whole situation is the fans. Right now, I think the average age of a video game player is 37 years old or something like that. It might even be higher. I don't check it every year, but every year it goes up. So, this I always have to tell people this and have them wrap their mind and explain it to them very simply, because if the average age is 37, how many people are over the age of 37 to counterbalance this perception that most gamers are under the age of 37? The perception is most gamers are 18 and below. But if you look at the statistics, 80% of gamers are over the age of 18. So there's this market that is full of people who are legally allowed to view adult content, and they're not getting the adult content fed to them just because the video game industry doesn't want to make games for them, and they kind of have all decided, and some officially, some unofficially, that they're just not going to do that. That they're not going to create this stuff.
Well, that's why a lot of the devs that we've got now that are in so we're calling it at the moment, we're calling it the West Boom, because a lot of the people because obviously porno games in Japan, like there's so many, there's ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So right now there's a lot of people from like Europe. Most of the devs come from Germany, surprisingly.
The one place we got banned.
Yeah, it's really crazy. One of the devs, I think they're making a Metroid style game, and they're earning about 20 grand a month just making their game, because a lot of the games are Patreon supported.
So how does
Patreon's
that Patreon supported? So you have to be a member of their Patreon to get the game?
No, so what they do, and it's like what we do as well. Most of these devs, in order to start the process, is they usually make a demo, and then it's like a pitch, and then basically they take the demo, they put it out publicly, and they say, look, we want to make more. We made this on a shoestring budget. We would like to make this, but we don't have the money. If we get enough people on Patreon, we could make this a reality.
Huh.
And so they kind of push for... they'll say like, oh, we'll show you behind the scenes stuff. We'll put your name in the credits of the game. We'll send you things. And so that's one of the biggest... I think one of the biggest people on Patreon at the moment, he's earning $100K a month on Patreon just from pledges for his game.
Wow.
He's one of the big. He's not one of the most popular ones, but he's one of the most financially steady ones, because his team is huge, and it's a big team where they're making this giant open world sort of sex romp mission based style game.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I'd say the boom is... That's what I was really interested in when you were saying that you were kind of off the grid a little bit, because the boom, it's huge now. Like the not safe for work gaming, and now with Steam opening up to say, hey, we'll take a porno game.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's flocked over there now, so a lot of us have started to fly over there, and we're all trying to do different games that hit different audiences. Like my game I'm doing is Shady Lewdcast, which it's porno Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing.
Oh man, hours I spent playing Mario Kart back in high school. I think me and two of my buddies probably spent a few 100,000 hours. It felt like playing that game, and I think one level over the ghost level with the super jumps. We played that.
Oh fuck yeah!
We played that level endlessly for days, I feel like.
And people looked at me funny when I said, oh, I'll just make a porno kart game. And they're like, that's fucking stupid. Why would you do that? and it blew up on Steam, because I was like, I'll do it like how Smash Brothers does, but I'll put in other porno guest characters. So I'll put in characters from other games, other websites, mascots from other porno websites. And then it became this thing where it just sort of snowballed a bit, and other devs have come out. Like there's even a guy that's made a Pokemon Snap style porn game, but you go through a world where you take photos of like these monster chicks in a like jungle or something, and they're all just fucking like it's just basically Pokemon Snap with porno in it.
Huh.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of doing something a little bit different. So that's what really interests me when you were saying when we were talking earlier before obviously this call. It's interesting to see where you are on the grid.
Yeah, which is usually
Yeah, it
pretty off of it. I'm just not I'm old school. I just kind of social media stresses me out more than anything else. There's being out there in the
Nah,
world.
dude, I can understand that.
Yeah, I
I can
just
understand that, man.
being the where I am in the company always. I've been the artist and the face behind it, and so much of the stuff that I've hearing criticism and all that stuff. I have a hard time not taking a little bit of it to heart since I'm responsible for so much of it. It's like
Oh, of course.
it's just one of those things. But I need to be out there more. It's one of those things that I need to make more a part of my job. But
Well, if you ever want to get out there, if you ever want to meet some of these other dudes or anything, you just let me know because I've like I said, I've got a gateway key
yeah,
to meeting some of these devs, and I mean, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for some of these
yeah.
people.
Well, you definitely it's video games are not ever made by one person. These
No.
video games, I tell people when they ask me what I do, and I don't want to tell them about the porno side of it. I talk about video games. But I tell about how video games are by far the most artistic expression mankind has come up with because it's everything.
Agreed.
It's the movies plus so much more. It's the movie side of what you do, like what they do in movies, is only a quarter of the artistic expression behind the programming, the level design, and all that stuff. It's just video games are definitely made by a village, and to get them out, a lot of things have to click and come into place. It's looking back at our development, it's amazing how many things had to come into place for it to happen, and they luckily did. They luckily did. The thing that never did fall into place for us was the marketing. That's always been for us the hurdle we've never been able to leap over.
Marketing is one of the biggest things. I think I've only just the past 2 years myself really learnt how to market porn games. I've been under the wing of somebody else teaching me how to do it because I still didn't understand how it works, and he was showing me simple things to do and it was blowing my mind because I'm like, how the fuck would you know that? Nobody teaches you that shit. It's just like hidden knowledge to make things easier for yourself. So I can completely understand how, like, and you're saying before how it feels almost intimidating using social media and marketing because you're kind of like, how the fuck do you do this shit? You don't just go out anymore and put a poster up in the street and be like, "Oh, yeah, come buy my game."
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
And I'm a very nice guy who wants to interact with people. If I put myself out there, I put myself out there to be out there to talk to people. So it's hard on the internet when you just have a million people and people who also just don't understand, would say stuff to you that they'd never say to your face. And that's just it's so hard dealing with those people when you want to be the nice guy and say, "Hey, wait, that's not a nice thing to say. Why would you tell someone that?" That is
Exactly.
that's just it's a crazy world out there.
When you made Bowntown, I don't know if my memory's serving me right. You guys made physical copies of the game too, didn't you?
Oh yeah. When the game released,
Yeah,
physical
so
copies were huge. The digital download did not exist like it does now. We were, I would say, a little bit bleeding edge with digital download, and
okay.
it was going on, but it was not going on in the volume it is now. So we had to print. It was a necessity at the beginning.
Okay. Because, yeah, I remember seeing... It was a long time ago when I first played Bowntown, and I remember seeing merchandise, but I was trying to jog my memory of whether or not that actually did happen. So,
Yeah.
did you... Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say we actually, yeah, some of the downsizing of the textures in the original Bowntown that people were upset about were because we had to fit it on a DVD. So actually there was,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we had to make some texture compromises at the very end of the process there to fit everything on one DVD, so we didn't have to do a 2 DVD installation. So it's so nice to be out of those days now on Steam, where you don't have to worry about size on. You obviously there is a worry, but not like there used to be of having to fit something on a DVD that was only 2 something gigs.
No, of course. So with Bowntown, obviously, it became quite successful. Where, what made you go? All right, we're gonna do Bonecraft.
Um, Honestly, Bonecraft started as even a much smaller thing than it ended up being. Because we did episode 1, and we with Wee Wee Herman and the Amish guy and that little midget. And that's honestly, doing updates was always from the beginning kind of our idea, or an idea that we wanted to do. It just in the end ended up being too difficult. Um, Through the avenues that we were having to do the digital download, where we handled all of it and Steam didn't do any. Obviously, weren't on Steam, so there's none of that. So Bonecraft just was going to almost be something like that, an add-on to Bowntown, but then we decided as we started working on it to turn this into an entire game, make the changes that we wanted to the engine to make it a bigger and better game than Bowntown, and do some of the things that we didn't like about Bowntown in it, which one of the big ones was we did motion capture for Bonecraft, which was great and something we want to get back into for Bowntown in the future now too. It's motion capture is amazing stuff, and I haven't looked into it in a little while, but I hope it's come a longer way than we had to when we did it for Bonecraft, which was still 10 years ago. We had to rent a whole warehouse space and rent the equipment for the whole kind of area to do the motion capture in, but now I'm hoping it's better. I don't know, I have to look around, but it's definitely something that is great and offers animations quickly, and very great animations. So that's something we hope to have in the future here. But that's
Did
sorry,
did
go ahead.
Bonecraft do just as good as Bonetown?
It did. I wouldn't say it did as good as Bowntown. It was smaller. It was not a world focused game. It was more of a story focused game. So I think its overall play time was less, which I feel like was the hindrance in it doing quite as well as Bowntown. Where Bowntown was the high concept completely of the run around Bone Girls, and there was so much to do beyond just the missions. Just it's like Grand Theft Auto. I haven't played the newer ones. Back in the day, I never played the Grand Theft Auto missions. I tried to see how many stars I could get and how many
Oh fuck
police.
yeah, everyone did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you play. That's how you kind of played that game. So that was always the high concept for Bonetown, was a much more game where you ran around doing stuff as a big part of it, and not so story driven. And I think that for the sex aspect of the game, I think that has done better for us. And I think more people are into real girls than they are orc and elf girls. So for the sex side of it, I think Bonetown offers more of the appealing stuff than Bonecraft did.
Mm-hmm.
But we really liked working on Bonecraft, and because I'm a huge Warhammer fan, we had big StarCraft and World of Warcraft fans, and so we got to bring in a lot of sci-fi and fantasy that we all just enjoyed into it, and we got to work with Neil Kaplan, who is the guy who did Tycho Finley in StarCraft, so that was really cool.
The biggest question I've got to ask about Bonecraft: who wrote the joke where the guy he sings "pussy, pussy, 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 pussy" at the start of the game?
Who did write? So the script is written by me and another guy, Billy Wright, who, a funny story, we met at a porn convention where he was just there with a buddy who worked in the industry, just kind of for fun, to say I went to a porn convention. And we were there. It was our first porn convention, actually. And so we were there showing off our demo. And I just ended up sitting at the bar having some drinks with him. And he told me he was a writer for The Simpsons. And I was like, oh my God, you are now the coolest person I've ever met. And then he's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I make porno video games. He's like, oh my God, you're now the coolest person I've ever met. So we hit it off immediately, and he ended up, I went out to LA for a week, and me and him wrote the whole script for Bonecraft, but I was like 2008 probably, so I was still heavily drinking, so I don't remember exactly who wrote that line. It was either me or him.
Okay.
The pussy dance, and then our lead animator did the pussy dance himself. He was the one who did all the motion capture. So that
Who? I was gonna say, like, obviously too, because I feel like this is gonna be an obvious answer, but I could be completely wrong. Do you do voices in either of the games?
No, I am a horrible actor. I wish I could. I would make my life a lot easier if I could do
Mm-hmm.
voice, because I actually, it's a funny thing of how a lot of the development goes down is I am the placeholder voice for most everything that goes in the game. That's not just random people before it goes in the game, guys and girls included. So in Bonecraft, I gave a very early demo to one of our buddies to play, just to kind of have someone who wasn't on the development team play it. But it was at a point where all of Sexbot's audio was still me. And he got to the sex tutorial and said he had to put it down and stop. He's, oh man, I cannot listen to you run me through a sex tutorial. Like it just did not did not work, man. Did not work. So I try a lot. I'll tell you, I try a lot, and my audio always sounds horrible. I'm just not made for acting. I got a voice that I think is
No.
made for radio, but I don't have a voice made for acting.
So obviously, when you took the game to Steam, and you had to make, I think it was the mature edition. You had to take a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, which never got
Um,
made, honestly. That was I mulled it over for a little bit. I'm like, Bowntown Mature Edition. Like, so what the heck is that gonna be? Because we did it just because Bowntown at that time was had been out a while and sales weren't great, so we thought, but see what happens. Honestly, not thinking it was gonna happen. The only reason it did happen because some podcast really pushed it. Thank you for them. I don't even know what the podcast was or who they were or how they even found out about us, but so it got greenlit, and I took a whole year. Me and my wife just traveled the world for a year, and I had just gotten into London, and someone had emailed me about we just got greenlit on Steam because I think the game we'd put it up on there maybe 6 months earlier, and I'd almost even forgotten about it. And so I got into London. I was staying at my buddy's place, and it's like, man, mature Bowntown. All right, so I started thinking about it. I'm like, what's that going to be? I'm like, we replaced sex with a makeout animation where you're like just feeling the girl up and down and kissing her. And I'm thinking that sounds like the hardest animations in the world to make because
mm,
touching people is the hardest thing to animate, especially when you have to morph it like we do. So then I started thinking about blurring stuff. And in the end, we decided a mature Bowntown sounds like a pretty horrible game that no one would want to play, and we'd probably just get crap from the people who did buy it. So
mm-hmm.
we decided not to do it. Just decided that was a one that wasn't going to be worth it. And in the end, I'm glad we did because if we had done a mature Bowntown, I don't think we'd have the Second Coming edition right now. So, and I am very excited about the Second Coming edition because it's something that I enjoy working on, and
Mm-hmm.
it's sad to say, but the company does what I enjoy because I enjoy enjoying my life and not hating my life, and I'm in control of it. So it's hard to make myself hate my life. So I do what I enjoy most of the time, and I really am enjoying working on this Bowntown Second Coming edition. So
Mm-hmm.
I see more stuff coming out in the future for it, and I see lots of avenues, and I'm hoping we get our pipelines smoother, quicker, maybe get a few more people involved to speed things up, and we start getting content out quicker. But I've always seen our product being a lot like South Park, and that's why when people start giving us crap, which I understand completely about our graphics are not the most up to date graphics. They're not the best graphics in the world. But
Hmm.
what in my mind I always hear when people tell me that stuff is it's neither are South Parks, and that is hilarious. And people don't give them shit about not making Cartman look like a real fat fucker, like he looks like a little
No, exactly.
paper cutout fat fucker. And that's kind of like we defined our style. We could make it better, but it's not going to change. We're not going to make our girls look real. That's just not our
Look, if
style.
you give someone enough drugs and enough alcohol, they'll fap to anything. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's
it's all
honestly
good.
the uncanny valley is real. It is a real problem that our industry will always have for a long time. I don't know if people are aware of the uncanny valley. Maybe I should just explain it, and that is in most, and you see it even in movies. It exists. It's still a barrier everyone's trying to cross, and it is the more real you get, the less real you get. And
Hmm.
that's the problem with sexiness is very much defined by such subtle subconscious things that if you try to make a real sexy girl look 100% real, the closer you or the harder you try, the harder it's going to be to make it happen. And we did, I don't
And the
know if,
weirder it looks.
yeah, and we did the V stroker thing. I don't know if anyone ever saw that. It's didn't it for us we it was a waste of in my opinion. The animator who was doing it way underestimated. It was like I think a year longer than like it was supposed to be 3 months, and it was like a year and 3 months to do the animations, which just kind of pissed me off from the get go. So it was but it didn't really do much for us, so we didn't do more of it. But it was our biggest attempt at making realistic models, and it still was the Bowntown look. I liked it, but it's one of those things too. Is our game's about getting hundreds of people out there in the world, and with huge high end models, you just can't do that. You can get one or two people, which is what a lot of sex simulators do. And they're getting the new sex simulators are. I just see them, the ads for them. I don't necessarily play them, but they look good. They're getting better. The animations are getting better. They're getting more fluid. It's they're definitely figuring out what we could do within the realms we have to make things sexy, but it's going to be always a challenge.
Is your team still just as big, or has it been downsized a bit since
It's
obviously
it's
first
been
Bonetown?
downsized a bit right now. Because honestly, we were what I called hibernation mode for a while because we never made I'd say enough money to keep a full time team on if we weren't developing hardcore.
Hmm.
We never had that huge success where all of a sudden the money was just rolling in and that money was not the issue anymore. We've always just kind of been scraping by, keeping it going, but not necessarily getting our pockets huge. So that's which is why not a lot of more contents come out. Pretty much keeping the ability to keep selling the game has been the priority for a while there until we started ramping back up when Steam allowed stuff. That's where the team started coming back on in some bits. It's not the entire original team, which in my mind I'm kind of glad there's certain people not involved anymore. It's the process has been streamlined a little bit, but the idea here shortly is to start bringing in a few more people for the new stuff we're going to be doing for the Second Coming edition. So just to speed things up and get things out sooner, so we can be the South Park that is putting new content out every week. Because I have plenty of stories to tell in Bonetown. I could tell stories in Bonetown all day, all night. So I want to get a good
I was
prof.
gonna say, like with the second coming, I assume some of it is obviously stuff that was left off the cutting room floor, but there's a lot that you've added into the game now that wasn't there. Like even when I went back in there, and I hadn't played it since the first time I reviewed it, and there was already new areas that I was going to that I was like, I don't remember this being here, or
Oh
I
yeah,
don't remember like this character interaction. You've added a lot
oh
since
yeah.
then.
We added a whole. I think we added three times as much voice as the original game had, and way better voice. I am so happy with how the voice turned out because originally we actually didn't have scripts for the characters, so it was just our audio engineer kind of producing and free flowing, which we felt like we couldn't write scripts. We want so much dialogue that we can't write scripts, but in the end that was just lazy bullshit. And for the second coming edition, I did write the scripts, and because of that, I got to get so much more story that is told and interwound within the stuff people said. So now you actually a lot of the stuff we never knew how to tell people in the game or was not important enough to really make a deal about, but was fun stuff we'd like to tell people. Now random people on the streets will tell you stuff. They'll say stuff about Bowntown you've never heard before, and they'll comment on stuff going on in Bowntown. Opposed to the original game, we had much more just like, "Fuck you, who's that?" This kind of like smaller stuff. Now it's much more scripted. There's much more intricate lines. So that was one thing I really enjoyed adding. And then the other parts you're talking about there, the different areas we did add a few areas, but what we did is we went over every area and said, let's make this badass. Like, let's not have this two statics right here. Let's layer them in. Let's get particle effects. The computers that we're making for the game Second Coming Edition for aren't the computers we were making the game for in 2005 when we started this game. So let's up the levels. Let's do a lot more stuff. And then really it was also the competitions are something that I hope people enjoy as much as I do. I like them. I think they are great little side missions and things to do, and
little mini games.
Yeah, exactly, little mini games. So we decided let's add more of those because they are easier to add for us than story, and you just kind of pop them in. So we added jerking off on people in a fancy restaurant and breaking Mexicans out of the deportation cages the man has them in. And now we have the one where it's the cultural sensitivity test, where it's can the line that we wrote for it, which I really like, is, have you been paying fucking attention or just fucking the first thing you see? Let's test people with that. And I maybe I'm a little sadistic towards our player base, but I like challenging them. I like doing things that it's like, hey, this is something. This is a challenge. Can you figure it out? I'm not of the hand-holding video game mentality quite as much, which I think has been a little bit of a downfall to Bowntown because people do find it a little bit too hard, and we're working on that. Everyone out there listening who thinks the game's too hard, we understand that it's easy should be as easy as it can be. So we're working on that. But I like a challenge. I think that's what made Bowntown and not just a sex simulator.
That's kind of what I feel about, because I remember my first memory when I reviewed the game. I had a friend that came around and I showed him the game, and he was like, this game, there's like a lot to it. And I was like, yeah, dude, like there's a lot more that I didn't even cover in my video. And then before we knew it, we'd ordered pizza, we got a couple of beers, and we stayed up and we played it, and we were trying to finish everything in the game because we were like, right, we need to do this. And I'm trying to remember the particular area, but there's that one area in the game where you really need like a high level of bong power in order to jump up and down certain of these mine shafts.
Yeah, the Mushroom Marsh.
Yeah, I forget how to get there. It's been a long time.
It's hidden. It's in the knobbing hill behind the rich house. And that's another thing that we, maybe to our disadvantage, we did is I like hiding stuff in games. Like, I don't think everything in the game I should have to sit there and point at it for you until you go there and say, hey, look at this over here, look at this over here. And it's I like the idea that people are rewarded for searching the game and finding stuff, and
that's the shit that we love, because we love the fact that one of the things that I love doing is I love breaking games, and I love going, I wonder if I can get to the top of that fucking hill.
Yeah.
I remember when we were playing it for the first time, and we were like, you're in the central part of Bowntown where the billboard is exiting out, And I was like, there looks like there's a place you can go up there. And so we upgraded, and there was a fucking woman up there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this is fucking sick. There must be stuff hidden everywhere in this fucking game. Yeah, and we spent hours playing just
Yeah.
finding all the little things and exploring, and it
Yeah.
felt like somebody who made it. It felt like to us it was a gamer who made it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, it was,
Yeah.
we wanted to make a game that was like that, like you said, you wanted to explore, and as a result, a lot of variety that we have in our game came out of that same mentality. Where right now, I don't know if it comes across as well as I hope it should. And in the Second Coming edition, I've made sure it does more. But every character, both guys and girls in our game, are a combination of 4 different body types completely morphed together. So that means
Mm-hmm.
every animation we have 4 animations for it, and even the animations are morphed. So because we have 4 different skeletons that we animate to for the different characters, and for us that was a had to have had, because we didn't want every girl you saw in the game to be the same girl, even if it was on
Yeah.
this. We wanted there to be tall girls, short girls, fat girls, and we couldn't do those all in the same rigs. So we wanted, and as a result, I still see variety in the game that I've never seen before, because we did for that. It made a lot of life harder having to animate that much, but I think in the end it was worth it for the variety we get.
So obviously there's going to be you sound very confident in the fact that there's going to be future updates. What we're going to see, we're going to see like a ability to use a speedboat, or is there going to be like, I don't know, like fucking use a hang glider to fucking hang glide fuck a chick in the air or some shit, or I mean, like, I could give you a million
Oh
fucking
no, I
ideas, but
know.
I mean, I assume you've got some.
So right now, the current plan is we're going to be putting out some more features in the game. There's going to be a girl customizer where you can just create any girl you want from everything we have, and there's going to be something where you could customize your character, so you don't have to follow
Nice.
our progression of getting tall and or getting buff. You could be whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the big thing's coming, and we one thing I like about Steam too is we have the game, the updates, and the community all in the same place, and I'm embracing that, and I am trying to be involved more on Steam. So it is kind of the avenue where I am going to be around, and people can contact us. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
listen to the community about what they want. I want to have my finger on what they're saying, and really do what they want, because this game is for them. And so we had a few ideas of what we might be doing, but it seems like, looking at the forums the last week of release, we've kind of narrowed it down to what we think what we're going into next, which is going to be a Fetish DLC. So we're going to
Okay.
really try to fill out all the sexual fetishes that we don't have in there yet, and that people are talking about, people want. Because that, looking around, another idea was we want to add more interiors to the game. That's something that is going to happen in the
Mm-hmm.
future. More of the buildings that are iconic, like the Broken Spoke in Gabacho Heights. It's going to have an interior. The 40 Love Tennis Club should have an interior. Because these interiors we like as spaces, because we could jam pack them full of people. So they're places where you could hop into, and all of a sudden have 100 people jammed into a building, and you feel like it's full and there's everything around you. And we want more of those spaces in the world. So that's something that we could tell more story. We can introduce more characters in these areas. So that's a good avenue. But looking at what people were talking about, they weren't talking about that stuff. They were talking about sex. So we're like, let's do the fetishes first, because that was the other big one on our in our minds for what we wanted to do. So this the what we're and we're once again we're on the forums right now. If there's fetishes that we're missing, talk about them, and we'll see what we could get in. But our list right now
Mm-hmm.
is things like Fuda, which is
Mm-hmm.
ladyboys, the big beautiful women, S&M, cream pie. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
see what if we could get some gay stuff in there. That's
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed. We haven't got into it yet. We've started the idea phase on it, but We're gonna get some more lesbian stuff. We're gonna get a gangbang stuff, some orgy stuff, maybe even some double penetration. And
Mm-hmm.
the idea is for all of these, I think, is what they're all going to become stores within the world. Is the idea right
Okay.
now? So there's going to be a Foodies Are Us in the world now that maybe is going to appear and say Boardwalk Downtown and Gabacho Heights, and you go into that store and now you have an entire, I don't know, wherever the place is, an entire office space or building. I'm blanking out of the word. A storefront that's designed for that sexual fetish, and we'll have positions in there where you could do all the food and stuff, and and some of them like the S&M one. Hopefully, will have positions you could unlock to use around the world for other people. So
Mm-hmm.
with this DLC, we're hoping to get more random positions, but we'll also probably do some stuff that you could only do within the stores, like the orgy store. You'll go in there and each store will hopefully have different setups for the orgies, and and you'll be able to orgy to your heart's content. But you won't be able to go around the world and have an orgy with like 20 different girls you just find around the world. So it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be kind of specific to each room what we do, but it's going to add, we're hoping to add twice as much sex, if not more, into the game. So
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be right now the biggest avenue, and then after that, story. And obviously we're gonna put story in this. We can't do anything without adding story, but I think once we
Mm-hmm.
get this fetishes out of the way and really up the sex count in the game, then in the next DLC is probably going to be playing with all the new toys we have sexual wise in new areas with new stories and new people and new character types. We'll have one I've really wanted to get in there is hipsters, so they'll be showing up at some point getting shit on like everyone else, and we'll probably get some military people in there getting
Oh, fuck yeah.
and we'll, once again, if anyone's got ideas, put them out there. I listen. If you put them on Steam, I'm there, I'm listening, and everything that is a good idea goes on a list that I look at and we decide from. So it's
Hey, look, you ever need a cameo from some random fucking pervert video game reviewer to appear in your game? You let me know because I will not hesitate to
yeah.
get my microphone ready, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, hey,
Um,
this could happen. We've been contacted by people who've just said, "Hey, I want to be in your game," and I tell them if you got the audio set up and could get me audio that works, I could probably get you a script. So we'll see what
fuck
could
yeah,
happen there.
yeah. So so basically, what you're saying is that you can now do the things that you couldn't do before. You're basically not just expanding to other fetishes, other things like other types of people to fuck, but you're obviously wanting to make the game bigger with more stories, more submissions, more basically. So there is a fuckload of game
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, that's kind of where
Okay.
we're headed. I want BoneTown to Second Coming Edition to be kind of a living game that grows. I'm Some of these
Hmm.
updates that we get here in the future, the posters around town are going to change a little. I'm going
Hmm.
to go around and change stuff and just kind of I want it to feel a little bit more like a living world than most single player games usually do feel like. So that's that's kind of the hope. We'll see how things go. You can never predict the future, but that is the trajectory at the moment.
Do you have any plans to make a game after Bonetown, or maybe bring Bonecraft in, or do you have any ideas for a future game?
Yeah, I got plenty of ideas. It's for honestly for me for future games. I'm at the point in my life where shoestringing a game sounds like the worst idea I could put out there to myself because of the stress and just everything that's involved in any sort of shoestring blood, sweat, and tears project, which was, that's what Bowntown was. The amount of stuff I gave up in my personal life to make Bowntown exist and the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it were ridiculous. There was I so many personal relationships in my life were falling apart because of that game because I was to put it out, you had to give 100% to it. And that is
Mm.
how blood, sweat, and tears shoestring projects go. But I'm too old for that shit now. So, well, so another project, I would love to do it, and I am completely open to it, but it's gonna have to be the right situation where I am not tapping my veins for the energy and strength to make it happen. Because too old for that
Mm.
shit. I don't need to go too gray too prematurely.
No, of course.
Yeah, it's
Um, I was gonna say, is there anything? What do you do when you're not being a dev? Like, what do you do when you're just being you?
oh me. I'm a most of the time parenting, but the fun stuff I do that's not that stuff. I'm a big mini gamer actually. That's my
Okay.
passion. I paint miniatures and play miniature games. That's
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's I got into it through painting. I am a avid painter, always have my entire life. And when I found 3D miniatures to paint, because I used to be a canvas painter, when I found
Hmm.
3D miniatures, I was like, oh my God, this is my jam. This is what I want to do. And it's been, man, probably 15 years straight now. It's been my jam. And that is, I have many Warhammer armies. I've gotten into Marvel Crisis Protocol recently. And so I have, on Frostgrave, that's another big one I enjoy. So yeah, and I like it too because it's games, but it's not video games. And for me, video games start feeling like work a little bit too much a lot of the time. So
Yeah, of course.
I enjoy miniature games and painting.
Dude, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I still can't believe I actually got to fucking talk to you today. Um, if there's anything that you want to say, anything you want to plug right now, I'll give you the floor so you can tell everyone.
uh, I hope people who enjoy our game or hope people who buy our game enjoy our game. That's all I want out of it. I want people to enjoy our game and also get offended where you get offended, but realize what is offending you and how that says more about you than it does about us. Because that is the Bonetown subconscious mind fuck that we do to you, and is you'll
Mm-hmm.
go through and play our game and see so much offensive stuff and just laugh at it, and then somewhere all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
something offends you, and you go, "Oh, that's too offensive." And all you gotta think to yourself is, what stuff were you okay with being offended by, and what stuff weren't you okay, and what's that say about you, and what's that say about how you could become a better person? And
Exactly.
that's what I always like to do is make people better people. And I maybe went in the wrong profession. Maybe I should be a coach out there trying to help kids become better people. But I did it through porno video games, so I'm just a weirdo.
Nah, nah. Wait, look. If that's being a weirdo, that's completely fucking normal, dude. Honestly. Um, thank you so much, Hod, for being here. To interview.
Of course,
Um,
thank you for having me,
and
man. I really appreciate it. It's been nice
and
to
to
talk. I
oh,
this is
thanks,
an
man.
avenue I'm much more comfortable in than online, saying stuff that lives right there as text forever. I enjoy this. So thank you. I appreciate it.
No, it's all good, dude. And to everyone at home, I'll obviously put the links down below. But I mean, if you haven't heard about Bonetown, go Google Bonetown, and you know exactly what we're fucking talking about because it's like the game. It's the game. It was the game, and it still is the game. So go search it up now. And as always, I'm your boy Shades, and I will see you guys on the next one.